right, Alec Zeck, thank you so much for joining us on this Urban Freedom Summit.
Thank you so much for having me, man. It's good to be here.
Yeah, good to see you again. I'm Justin Franson, and I am so stoked to have Alec on. We met at the Soa Heart Farm in Fillmore, where he put on a Health Freedom for Humanity event at a organic biodynamic farm in Fillmore that feeds about a dozen of their restaurants, Cafe Gratitude and more. And it was probably one of the most impressive farms that I've been to, properties that I've been to. And not a large acreage by any way, shape, or form, but so dense and so nutrient dense. And the way that she really curates the land and was so creative with the space just blew my mind. So let's talk a little bit about that. Like, how did you guys meet? Let's go into the farming first and talk about how urban freedom plays a role with growing your own food and really decentralizing the whole food industry.
Yeah, so don't want to be too long and drawn out here, but I'll try to summarize best I can. So just to give some context, our organization, Health Freedom for Humanity, the name Health Freedom, or the word Health Freedom, most people think of vaccines, masks, and the right to choose or not choose those things. And that is an important piece of what we do, but it's so much more than that. And this event is one of many reflections of that. So I had come to know Molly, who is the owner and farmer and chef for So Heart Farm, and then also her vegan restaurants, Sage Vegan Bistro, and then also her family started Cafe Gratitude. So her family's done a lot in the restaurant industry for like the organic space. But I had met her through a mutual friend, Rob Reiner, who is the CEO and founder of Crop Swap. And that is an app that they're in the process of changing their names, but essentially the way the app works is you can subscribe to farms in your local area and then have the food from that farm delivered to your doorstep. And in order for a farm to be on that app, they have to be a regenerative organic farm. So I met Molly through Rob. I went on a tour of her farm in October of 2021. I think it was October. Yeah. And just fell in love with it. And I'd always been wanting to grow my own food and start my own regenerative farm. Still need to get some land and money behind that, but we'll table that for a later date. But that's always been a dream of mine. And then when you see that farm in person, it is the amount of abundance that is possible on 20 acres of land is really incredible. I think she's growing somewhere between 265 and 285 variety of fruits and vegetables just on 20 acres and has 9 different types of animals. You saw Justin, and anyone who was there, it's incredible to see in real life. And so I knew that because of the nature of what our organization talks about, and we had already had some other discussions on our podcast on regenerative agriculture. We had at our event last year in Kansas City, multiple people get up, including some farmers, one by the name of Nick Wallace, get up and talk about the importance of healthy soil, of growing your own food, of regenerative agriculture, of traditional farmers adopting regenerative practices, about how food can literally turn into a form of money in a way. If we were all growing our own food, then fiat currency would be completely useless because we could just use actual hard food as our form of currency between us. And just do away with the whole fiat system. But that's what led us to our California chapter, specifically doing an event on Molly's farm. And the whole point of the event was to focus on just solutions in all areas of life, solutions in terms of health, food, land, consciousness, decentralization of in your finances and financial abundance, and even had Renette Sinham come talk, who gives a different take on politics, which is really refreshing. And yeah, that was the intent behind the event. And I think it was really successful. And that's kind of what our organization does.
Yeah, and you spoke obviously, but your talk, You guys, Alec is a former U.S. captain in the U.S. Army, and he was a world-class athlete on USA's handball team and competed with the Army in handball. So he was an athlete in the military. And he gets up at this event at a farm in the middle of Fillmore, California, and starts talking about biotrain over germ theory, a really similar, detailed, extensive lecture that an MD that I know just gave earlier that year. And I mean, I don't know how you ended up doing that topic, but I can't think of a really a more versatile person. So how do you go from being in the Army as an athlete to lecturing on biodynamic farming at a local farm for your new, health, freedom for humanity, .org foundation?
I've like given my backstory a lot, but never within the context of that. Cause like even saying it that I couldn't help but laugh when you were talking because it's like I just texted a friend of mine like a week ago who's also really, really well versed in terrain and understanding the true nature of disease. And we were both watching the Mavericks game the other day, and I texted him and I said, and we were just talking about sports, talking about basketball, talking about like the Mavericks and their offense that they were running, which we both thought wasn't really good. And we're both like huge basketball fans. My dad was a college basketball coach growing up. Basketball was my life growing up. And so I texted him, I said, did you ever think, if I had told you 3 years ago that you would be discussing the depths of virology and of cell cultures and what happens in lab settings, and that you'd be challenging actual virologists on it and debunking them, what would you have told me? And he was like, I would have said that you are absolutely effing crazy. And that's exactly how I feel if you had told me that, even just 2.5 years ago. So my path, wow. Well, I grew up in a pretty chaotic and abusive household. And my dad was sort of, and my mom were both sort of repeating patterns of generational abuse and trauma. My mom was very neglectful because she was more focused on trying to fix my dad. My dad, like I said, just repeating patterns. And there's a lot of chaos, physical abuse, verbal abuse in my household. And in 8th grade, or to add more context to this, my dad was a college basketball coach, like I said, until I was around 9 or 10 years old. And then he became my AAU basketball coach. So for my travel basketball team. And basketball was my life, but I was always so scared of messing up because basketball was tied to my self-worth, because it was like life or death. And I know in hindsight, my dad was just doing the best that he knew how because he wanted me to succeed so bad. But there was so much pressure on me to perform that if I hit my first shot, I was going to have 40. If I missed my first shot, I would look over at the bench, see my dad's look on his face, and then immediately be afraid. And then I was going to have a horrible game, and then it would just spiral from there. And so the only school, I'm going to try to tie in multiple things here. So my dad went to rehab when I was in 8th grade, and because of some of the trauma that my family experienced, my mom went to go see a psychiatrist, a traditional psychiatrist, and an expert. And we assumed that this expert knew best. So my mom wasn't asked anything about the trauma that she had experienced, or her nutrition, or her mindfulness, or anything like that. It was simply a discussion for like 10 minutes of the symptoms that she was experiencing, which were symptoms of depression, anxiety, suicidality, just because of the nature of my familial dynamic. And after that, she was prescribed multiple benzodiazepines and SSRIs. And over the course of the next 10 years, my mom's health spiraled and spiraled and spiraled. Now, so for me on my own path, I was conditioned to believe that I was worthless unless I performed a certain way, or unless I was a certain way, just by the nature of my upbringing. And again, basketball was my life. Basketball was my identity. And if I didn't play well in basketball, then my whole identity was in question. If that makes sense. And the only Division I school to recruit me was West Point. And I went to West Point, ended up getting cut from the basketball team while I was at West Point, but decided that I was going to stay. And wasn't because I wanted to serve in the Army. I'd never thought about being in the Army. It was simply because a very, matrix paradigm that I was in my headspace at the time. Oh, multiple Fortune 500 company CEOs have gone to West Point. So having this a degree from here will be huge. I'll just serve my minimum of 5 years in the Army and get out. So when I was a freshman at West Point, after I got cut from the basketball team, I got approached by a senior when I was playing pickup basketball in the gym. And he said, "Hey, you should come try out for handball." And I was like, "Handball? What is handball? I've never heard of that in my life." And went to try out for the team. Became really good at handball over the course of the next 3 years. A USA coach was watching me play my junior year and in a tournament in Canada, and then approached me and asked me to join the US national team. And I said, "Well, I can't because I have to be in the Army after I graduate. I can't go do something else." And he said, "Nope, actually there's a program in the Army where you can serve as an Army officer while also being a member of any of the Olympic teams. If you're on a U.S. national team for any of the Olympic sports, you can do that full time for any Olympic qualification period." So I was blessed to be able to do that for 2 out of my 5 years in the Army, train as a professional athlete full time, trying to qualify for the Olympics. And it was incredible. But so now back to the story with my mom. My mom, like I said, her health spiraled. And in her up moments, we thought, "Oh my God, these drugs, these benzodiazepines and SRIs, they must be working." And in her down moments, which became more and more frequent, and the down moments became increasingly dark and really disturbing, she wouldn't leave her room for multiple weeks at a time. She was hallucinating, in and out of mental hospitals, multiple suicide attempts. It was extremely dark to where I almost left West Point my junior year because of how bad it was getting. So by the time I'm a senior at West Point, graduated in 2016, we're actually looking at putting my mom in a long-term facility because of the amount of ups and downs. In those up moments, we're like, "Oh my God, we have our mom back." And then the down moments were becoming more frequent. So my siblings and I sort of thought there's no way we could get closer anymore. And these, little pieces of our mom that we see from her, how she was previously, are becoming less and less frequent. And we were talking, with my dad and other family members about putting her in a long-term facility because we were either going to lose her to suicide or, we just weren't ever going to get the real Alec Zeck back. And then by chance, she was seeing a therapist at that time who was reading a book called A Mind of Your Own by Dr. Kelly Brogan. And this therapist recommended that my mom go see Kelly. And just so happened that Kelly had a practice in New York, and I was graduating from West Point. I graduated on May 21st, 2016. And then my mom went to go see Kelly a week later. And Kelly completely changed the path for not only my mom, but for my entire family, because once my mom adopted Kelly's very, natural, holistic approach to health, she began healing for the first time. And that was obviously a huge shock to me. And then my wife, who I just married at the time, right after I graduated, 9 years prior, was diagnosed with lupus and rheumatoid arthritis. And after we saw my mom begin to heal, we tried the same approach for my wife, because my wife was under the care of multiple rheumatologists, was chronically ill, was told she would always feel this way, that she would just have to manage the pain. All these other symptoms would pop up because of the drugs that she was on. Then she'd get on more drugs. It was just a never-ending cycle of chronic illness. And then we adopted the same approach for her that we had adopted with my mom. And in a matter of 4 months, my wife had reversed all of her autoimmune conditions and had blood work to prove that her inflammation levels has gone down. So I was thrown into this space by experience. So I never ever thought I'd be interested in any of this stuff, but I experienced 2 people in my life who are chronically ill, trusting the experts, right? And then see them drastically heal when they stepped away. And then I began this just never ending journey of questioning from 2016 on. And I served in the Army from 2016 until April of 2021. And the whole time I'm like, okay, I know I'm going to get out. I don't know how I'm going to get out. I don't know what I'm going to do when I get out, but I just know I can't do this anymore. I just don't resonate with it. And luckily I didn't have to serve in combat because I was training as a professional athlete, like I said, for 2 of the years. And so when COVID hit, I just saw so clearly through what was going on because of all the research that I had done. And I had also experienced tremendous amounts of abuse and healed much of it. So I know what manipulation, gaslighting, and all of those things look like. And I saw that coming from the government. I saw that coming from the media, the pharmaceutical industry, from allopathic healthcare system, and just saw it so clearly that in May of 2021, while I was still in the Army, I said, I can't be silent anymore. I have to speak. So I was a dude who just posted on social media before that, pictures of my family or like me playing sports or something. And I began using my social media as a means to communicate what I saw going on in the world. And a lot of people started resonating with it. And then I connected with a lot of other so-called influencers, and we decided to start an organization, Health Freedom for Humanity. And this has now become my full-time thing. So this path has been really strange. I don't think many people have a path as strange as mine has been, but I was sort of just thrust into this space by experience, man. And I, there's a lot more context to share there, but that's pretty much it.
Wow, what a story. Oh man. I mean, so many ways to go on that. The background's incredible. Let's start with West Point. I've worked with lots of athletes and SEALs, Navy SEAls, and we have a lot of hot shots coming through athleticism program. And I know that currently all the West Point students had to take the shot that everyone's.
I think there's still a few holdouts, but yes, that's pretty much like 99% correct.
So how can we shift this narrative? I mean, other than your Andrew Kaufman-esque, talks on germ theory versus bioterrain and how, a virus is just a dead protein. That's our adaptive system. I mean, how do we go into that type of an organization from the top down that's literally grooming patriots to fight for our freedom when they're not acting the way they're presenting themselves to represent?
This is a really good question. And I would say that the answer is this: to actually do the things that West Point says it's supposed to be about. And really, in a broader sense, what the Army is claiming and teaching it is supposed to be about. And what I mean by that, specifically speaking to West Point, is that the cadet prayer, within the cadet prayer, it talks about always choosing the harder right over the easier wrong, and always fighting for the whole truth and never accepting a half truth when a whole truth can be won. That's part of the cadet prayer at West Point. I was taught to do individual risk benefit analyses on literally every decision. We would do decision trees, and the major that I majored in, systems engineering. And we would do military decision-making process protocols, and that's called MDMP. And that's like supposed to be what the Army is about. But somehow the Army and West Point have succumbed to this very leftist Marxist ideology. And I say that with full acknowledgement that I do not think that the right is good either. And I'm very much middle of the road. And I think politics is all theater and illusion anyway. But it has succumbed to this very leftist Marxist mentality. And it's really quite disturbing because I look at, as an example, what happened with the shots. And that's just one of many examples. There's so many other things that I could go into, even just the nature of the wars that we found ourselves in and the intent behind them versus what the actual intent is. So just on the example with the shot, though, individual risk benefit analyses, right? We know that, and I'm sure that many of the Army's medical personnel know that we received the sequences for the vaccines from the Chinese authorities. One, We know that we are, or at least we say that we are, always under threat of a conflict with China, right? That's number two. So we're taking that at face value, those sequences, they're putting them into the vaccines, and then we're delivering these vaccines to the entire Department of Defense. And not only delivering it like, hey, here's an offering, like, oh, you must take this thing. Also, with the context that the Chinese government did not have their military take mRNA products. That's also a little weird. And also with the context that, in general, the population in the US Army is much healthier than the average American. And like there's certain requirements that you have to meet, and they've kind of become a little too lenient, but there's certain requirements that you have to meet in order to even be a soldier in the Army. And I look at the COVID data, 95% of COVID deaths had an average of 4 comorbidities. 78% of hospitalizations were in overweight or obese people. And the largest risk factors for death were obesity and fear/anxiety related disorders. So an individual risk benefit analysis tells me that, okay, this novel technology, this new technology, we're receiving sequences from the Chinese government. They're not giving it to their soldiers. That's a little bit strange. Maybe this is something in a risk benefit analysis. There's just too much risk here. Let's not give this to our soldiers. And that's without even venturing down the context of pharmaceutical corruption, the context of germ versus terrain theory. Just even the surface level argument dismantles the necessity to vaccinate the entire Department of Defense. It makes absolutely no sense, which tells me that they are either just unaware and are not preaching what they say and conducting risk benefit analyses, or they are deliberately doing this at the highest level. And then the way groupthink works, even with within the context of a force that is supposed to be making unit decisions, making decisions that are best for all of your subordinates when you're a leader. The way the Army works, even when I was in it, a lot of the times commanders will make decisions that are not necessarily best for their unit, but they're making that decision simply because they want to look good to their boss. And then that commander is making decisions because they want to look good to their boss. And there are very few, there are some, but very few who are willing to stand up to that and say, no, this is not right. I'm going to choose that harder right over the easier wrong. And a lot of people are unfortunately choosing the easier wrong. And it's just so fascinating to watch because I did learn all of these things at West Point. That was instilled in me while I was at West Point. I went into West Point lacking a moral compass. Again, had a very authoritarian upbringing which made me smart enough to even be able to get into West Point, but I lacked a moral compass, and I developed that moral compass while I was there. And it's just so weird to see so many people either be tricked into going against it, or I don't know what, but it's that the Department of Defense is very clearly not practicing what they preach.
Yeah, it's super disturbing. And I just brought them up because it's such a perfect example of being a leader and then representing by example, as you do, as Andrew Kaufman does, as Tom Cowan does, as Mike Winter does, and Bear Lando does, and Kelly Brogan. I mean, and the list goes on and on, but those are the people that I know, that both of us know personally and have dealt with them extensively over the last year or two, and have the same methodology. But that's what a leader looks like. A leader looks like the one that really showcases how the universe works, how we're one with it, and then what the difference between this man-made stuff is and how we're really made. And then when you can just literally quantify it and share that information, and then just decide, like for the West Point, decide just to go a different direction. I mean, it's beyond any reason that we could ever fathom. Mm-hmm. So there must be something bigger than them pushing down on it. And then at the end of the day, it's got to be for money and power. And so that's why we're really having this chat right now. Is we're looking for freedom in urban settings where most of the population is. We're looking out for all these individuals and saying, hey, join these foundations, support these foundations, support the local farmers, start growing your own food. Get with guys like Jim Gale and Food Forest Abundance and start to become your own grower of food and stop buying all the pesticide ridden foods, because literally we can shift this entire system instantly overnight by stopping purchasing, all these incredibly damaging products that are in the marketplace. I mean, every single thing that's in plastic can be changed overnight. We just stop buying it. And the second we do that, it's really, it could shift a lot. Don't you feel the same way?
Yeah. And I want to speak on that in a broader sense too, more than just no longer supporting and giving your energy to some of the products that perpetuate this system and perpetuate the centralization of systems, because what we need is decentralization and more local community-led systems, right? And in a broader sense, the way to stop the tyranny, the way to stop the World Economic Forum and all the governments around the world syncing up with each other to collectively implement this plan that is very clear to any of us who are awake, is to simply be free. That's why I'm wearing this shirt. I wear it all the time. It says be free on it. And what do I mean by be free? It means whatever it looks like to you to be the authentic version of yourself. And so many people are too scared to be authentic, and so many people are too scared to be real, so they conform with what is not real, with what goes against who they truly are and what they truly think and perceive about the world. And I think a lot of people in the, so-called freedom or sovereignty space are so caught up with petitioning the government, asking the government for permission, pleading with the government, contacting their congressmen, protesting right outside their capital, which those can be good showcases of unity. But what that does is it reaffirms that thing, even though it's an illusion, that thing has power over me, that I am not free because of something that they are doing. If everyone understood fundamentally that we are already free, that we don't need to ask for it, and just simply acted upon that authenticity and freedom that is inherent to their being, this would all end like that. We don't need to petition them. We don't need to ask them for permission, any of those things. We don't need to, fight the system. It's like the old quote by, what's his name? I forget his name, but it's rather than fight the existing system, go make new systems to make the old one obsolete. And that's what we need to be doing right now. Focusing our energy on creating new things, new systems to just make the old one obsolete, because the more that we can show that this side is excelling, this side is in collaboration with each other, this side is in community, is open, is allowing free thought and the free sharing of information and perspectives, while the other side is saying, you must be this way, you must do this, you must do that. The more we can be the opposite of that, the more people will come onto this side. And I think that we don't need to be fighting for our freedom. It's just simply acting on the freedom that you already have. You thinking that you have to get your freedom back from someone is wrong. It's already there. You just need to act on it.
Right. And the way you act is by not believing that this drug will save you or this pill will save you or this shot will save you, or this bad food is conventional. Like literally, I mean, we have to again understand and unlearn what we've been taught in a lot of ways, because we've been brainwashed to think certain ways. But to your point, acting on that, and just, I feel it was a level of consciousness that the names that I listed previously, and we all have this innate level of consciousness that we know we are already free. It's a knowing. Mm-hmm. And with that, we know we're connected above, we're protected. We're not worried about really anything. So because we're already free and protected and connected, then all the other stuff out there is just background noise.
Amen. It really is. And it's like, I think one of the things that I'm most passionate about to really disconnect from the system is growing your own food. Um, that's actually like partially why I'm moving to Texas here soon, is I want to be a little bit closer to Molly, because she's setting up another regenerative farm in Texas around 2 hours away from us. Also, I'll be near some family and friends, but I'm so passionate about that because if we're wanting to disconnect from this system and do away with all the old systems and make them obsolete, if we were just all each committing to growing our own food in our local communities, we could literally use that as a form of money, as a form of energy exchange. Like, oh, I need to have my roof fixed. I have 8 pumpkins. You need pumpkins. You didn't grow any this year. Here's 4 pumpkins, and then you can fix my roof for me. Rather than compensating people with fiat currency, which is really in many ways at the root of all of these problems, because they control it. They print it when they want to. They keep it close for themselves. If we want to disconnect from the system, I think if we are growing our own food and we use that as the form of energy exchange, man, that is a surefire way to disconnect from the system.
For sure. Well, tell me more about the healthfreedomforhumanity.org, your foundation. You founded it, you started it. What are your initiatives? How can people get involved? How does it generate revenue other than donations? And how can people really start to support it in a grand scale?
Yeah. So, like I said, I started this organization alongside several other so called influencers. And the intent behind it was to show that health freedom is not something that only super far right leaning Trump supporting QAnon conspiracy theorists want, that it really is people from all walks of life. And when we started, we really showcased that pretty effectively, in that we had people really from all walks of life, all races, all religions, socioeconomic backgrounds, political affiliations, genders, sexual orientations. We had literally everyone, and we are united on this shared belief that everyone has the right to choose what is best for their own health without coercion or force. So that's how we started. And then over time, we started implementing so many other things into what we are about: regenerative agriculture, common law, natural law, consciousness, all the other things that really make up what it means to be healthy, and focusing on solutions to counteract all the tyranny that was going on. So we recently adopted a second definition for health freedom. And just to share, our mission statement is to educate, empower, and unite people from all walks of life under one common purpose: the reclamation and defense of health freedom. And like I said before, health freedom is the right to choose what is best for your own health without coercion or force. But the second definition we've recently adopted is the right to know and access what produces and maintains mind, body, spirit wellness. And that shows that we hold solutions to be just as important as counteracting and educating on all of the tyrannical things, on the corruption in the pharmaceutical industry, government corruption, all those things. Yes, that's important, but how do we maintain and produce mind, body, spirit wellness, right? So what our organization is in the middle of doing right now, and yes, we rely on donations, and then also make money off of our events that we hold. And one that you went to in California and Fillmore, host a lot of events like that. But we're developing a membership platform right now, and it'll coordinate with our chapters that we already have. We have 19 chapters in the United States and chapters in 3 other countries, and we're looking to expand a lot more. But really right now, we're just in need of funding in order to continue to expand our chapters. So what the membership will include is exclusive podcasts and courses, footage from all of our filmed in-person events, live stream event footage, some documentary films, weekly live stream Q&As with members of Health Freedom for Humanity that'll be streamed directly to our membership platform, and then exclusive discounts with Health Freedom for Humanity brands, partners, courses, and products. So we've partnered with several brands. We're partnering with your organization, and we're going to be offering some pretty awesome discounts, basically cultivating an environment where anybody who's a part of our community has access to the best possible deals they can get in the realm of holistic health products, services, and courses. So we're really, really pumped about that, and it's just going to continue to grow from there. And in order to be a part of our membership, all that requires is a minimum donation of $11 a month or $99 annually, and you can be a member. And Yeah, we're really excited because this will also bleed over into our chapters, and they will be creating essentially an environment locally with local hubs where they have contacted businesses who will then be offering discounts on the ground in real life to anyone who's a member of, the Health Freedom Free Mandy Wisconsin chapter. If you're a small business owner in Wisconsin, you want to be a part of this community, you just give a 10% discount code to anyone who's a part of it, and then that whole community is being pushed directly towards your business. So it's a really amazing way to create a network and create a community of people all over the United States that is supporting each other.
Oh, that's fantastic. And $11 a month is a no-brainer for most people to really get this initiative out there, to support this, and to really essentially raise that consciousness of mind, body, and spirit. So we know that we are free. I mean, that's just fantastic. And this summit, our Go Beyond Summit for the Urban Freedom, will air on the 4th of July weekend. Like, this is our time for freedom. We've been a free country for 250 years approximately. I mean, we're so young. We're so young as a country. I go back and study the history with my daughter in these history books, and there are these dynasties that have lasted for thousands of years. And to see ours really start to unravel within, just after a couple hundred years from the inside out. I mean, this isn't really an attack from another country in, although there are some subtle signs of it from what you're saying with the sequencing and the shots, and what I see with our EMF rocks and on the cybersecurity side of, all these parts and all of our phones and devices they're made in the CCP district. And so they're listening and aggregating that information. So that's worrisome. But to see our country really buy into a fear agenda for profit and to depopulate at the end of the day and establish more control, we're in a challenging time. And we're in the military where they teach you how to combat, a foreign, threat. And there's lots of ways to combat that. But this is a new fight within our own, and it's through our words and our consciousness. And I personally am so appreciative of people like you that really have a giant heart and are so connected, that have the will and the strength to stand up for who you are and what you represent and what we were born in to represent. And that's freedom at the end of the day. And so I'm super grateful for your voice.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. I think it's important too. And I think the main thing that I would want to impress upon people is the importance of sharing your authentic perspectives, regardless of if they are not in agreement with mine or other people's. It's important that we all express ourselves authentically and, like I said, be free. And I think that's probably the most important thing that we can do right now to turn around what's happening in the world, because so many people are having to hide aspects of themselves, or having to, or thinking that they need to conform with certain ideologies they don't believe in. And, the powers that be will use that against us. If we're being authentic and true to ourselves in every way, we're not subject to any of this nonsense anymore. So I think that's the most important thing right now.
Yeah, definitely. And I've stopped watching TV altogether. I love sports, and unfortunately, you're wearing the Boston hat, and I've stopped watching because there's still guys wearing masks.
I know, it's awful.
And I just, I feel so awful for these players, that I'm such a pro advocate for athletes, and I have always gone to bat for them. And I have so many of them that have been forced to get the shots for their career. And several of them said no. But at the end of the day, most of them ended up succumbing to it. So I want to support the organizations, give time and attention, and then share this awareness that, hey, we already are free. So, I mean, this is a wild time. So, hey, thank you so much, Alec, for joining us and sharing your information. You guys, healthfreedomforhumanity.org. And this, again, is coming out on 4th of July weekend. Alec, let everyone know where you will be the back half of 2022 so they can come visit you.
Yeah, so I literally will be in Texas. So hopefully we'll be having our next event there in November. Maybe by July there will be a lot more details. Hopefully, I know we're recording this a little bit earlier than July 4th, but we're planning an event November 3rd and 5th. It's our annual event that we host. It'll more than likely be in Austin, Texas. If not, I'll share the details that you can put in the show notes for this. But as an organization, where we will be going is just doing our best to educate, empower, and unite people, because that is extremely important for us to unite in local community with people who are like-minded and start cultivating an environment where we can collaborate with each other locally to counteract anything that's going on in the world. And then for me personally, I don't know, man, because if you had, again, asked me 3 years ago where I'd be right now, I would have never said I'd be doing anything like this. So 6 months from now, who knows what the heck I'll be doing, but I'm sure I'll just continue to follow the bouncing ball and be the authentic version of myself. So
yeah, you will. Well, I'll be one of your memberships, subscribers right out of the gate. So you can count on that for sure. And you guys look for all of this benefits. I know we're going to be rolling out some really fun opportunities to get involved with it. So stay tuned. And Alec, thank you again so much.
Thank you so much, Justin. Appreciate you, brother.
Yeah, appreciate you. You are the man, and so strong and powerful, and someone I admire deeply and respect to no end. So thank you for what you're doing, and keep staying strong and keeping your chin up, because what you're doing is helping a lot. So thank you.
Thank you.